You are listening to INTERFORM Podcast with Ro on the radio. You're going to want to hear this.
Welcome to INTERFORM Podcast. It's me, Ro on the radio. I'm going to give y'all a disclaimer. There is severe construction going on outside. I'm actually looking at like the construction tool. I don't even know what that is. But so if you hear the noises, we are quite aware. They are making Springdale a better place. So this episode, I've got my guy, Rich Gathright, the man himself. So for people who don't know who you are, why don't you introduce yourself to the peoples?
Thanks, Ro. Nice to be here with you as always. My name is Richard Gathright, and I am the director of Northwest Arkansas Pride with NWA Equality.
That's a big deal.
It is.
Okay, when did NWA Equality start?
So the center was opened in 2006, and we achieved our charitable status in 2007.
Okay, that's
so
a long time.
Been around for a minute. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So who started it, and why did it start?
It was started to help, which our mission is to provide programs, education, and advocacy to serve the LGBTQ community in Northwest Arkansas, particularly in Washington and Benton counties. Mm-hmm. We've come a long way, and we still have such a long way to go as we can see what's happening going, on in this country and in the state, and
it seems like we get to a certain place and then we get kicked, several steps backwards. So It seems like it's definitely an uphill battle. So since NWA Equality was started, what changes have you noticed? And both in the organization and in the Northwest Arkansas community in general, both good and bad.
Well, two good things are the two employees that we have, Joseph Porter and Steve Harrelson. Steve is our part-time employee, and Joseph's our full-time. We had two full-time, but Megan Tulloch, who is our program and advocacy director, is taking a position with her husband. They had an opportunity to acquire a company.
Nice.
Yeah. So,
Megan's doing big things.
So, while she is still with us in a volunteer capacity, she's not with us anymore in the official title capacity.
Right. So there's been some changes in staff.
There have been changes in staff, and one of the biggest things I've noticed is how large Pride has gotten since I took over in 2018. Hannah Withers had asked me to help her out on Pride that year, and the year before there were like 6,500 people that showed up, for the parade and up to the town center, and then we moved everything down to Dixon Street. And that year we had 15,000 show up. And last year, 2022, we had over 30,000 people show up for the parade.
In the rain.
In the rain, in the heat, all of it.
I remember that people were dancing in the rain, and it was a beautiful sight.
It was. Nice. And you know what? It probably is going to rain at least just a little bit every year.
How do you know?
It always, most of the time, that's what usually happens. It's that time in June where, we always just get one of those stray, sometimes very large,
downpours,
5-minute thunderstorms that, blows through. It just seems, which is great because it does cool everybody off after you've been out there sweating all day.
That's true. I was worried about the equipment last time. I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, I definitely was feeling for Adam Putman and his crew working all of our production for sure.
Like trying to cover everything up. But either way, it worked out, and it was huge, like ginormous.
It was, yeah. We do it rain or shine, unless there's some sort of lightning, tornado situation going on. We're going to march down Dixon Street that day.
I love it. So for those who aren't familiar with how Pride itself started, talk a little bit about the movement and why it's important.
So Pride started as a protest, late 60s, and has progressed, throughout the years as not just a protest, but has now kind of turned into the yearly party to celebrate the LGBTQ community.
Right.
Which is super important, especially right now as, we're trying to make gains, and we are in some ways, but I think unfortunately, especially in Arkansas, the regressive policies that are being adopted by politicians in Little Rock are I know people that are moving out of the state because they're scared for themselves. They're scared for their trans children.
Yes.
They're scared about health care. So many things are, encouraging them to move to other states that are more, welcoming, states that, aren't trying to ban abortion or trans health care or drag for that matter.
That is something else.
It really is.
We were talking about this off camera. It probably is on camera, knowing James. And I talked about this. My son actually asked me about it, and he was just kind of like, why can't you just let people be who they are? Why is it such a big deal? Why can't people simply disagree without making laws against someone's life?
Right.
And he doesn't understand. And I don't really know how to explain it to him as a mom.
I think it has a lot to just do with power over marginalized communities that, they have, especially for the LGBTQ community, put out this narrative that is not true, that, we're basically all
Dangerous.
sexual deviants and dangerous and, going to harm your children, which is just absolutely
Absurd.
not true. It's so absurd. It makes no sense to me except just thinking about that they are trying to acquire power over everybody.
And they don't seek to understand.
No.
I don't know if it's because some people explain it as it's fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
People fear what they don't understand. And I'm not sure if it's fear or if it's just hate, but is hate grounded in fear?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, you have, folks in Little Rock who are not doctors, who are not specialists in these fields, especially when it comes to trans healthcare, making decisions for parents. When they don't, they don't want to wear a mask or, have a book in a library.
But they did their own research.
Right. But, they've all become, doctors overnight and know what they're talking about, which is just absolutely crazy.
Exactly. I'll just say this, and then I gotta move on to the next question because it gets me fired up, Rich. I really feel like it's kind of putting because there are groups enacted in Northwest Arkansas that are trying to make Northwest Arkansas more inclusive. And I find that absolutely hilarious because it's like, well, you can start by actually being inclusive. Like you can't, there's so much stock placed into looking inclusive and looking welcome instead of actually being welcome. There's a difference between being inclusive and being welcome and appearing to be inclusive and appear to be welcoming. It's very strange to me how certain groups feel like that's going to actually work.
Everybody wants to be an ally when it's easy. But
there it is.
Not when it's hard and you need to take a position to stand with the community that you claim you care about.
Say that then, Rich. So and we were just talking about this, but what does the new legislation mean for both NWA equality and Pride?
It's a massive amount of headaches for us on so many levels. Pride, we are pretty lucky that the drag bill got gutted more or less.
Okay.
Yes, it was signed into law, but all of the language that had to deal with drag and, it being inappropriate to minors was pulled out.
Okay.
There were some influential people in Little Rock that helped and people from up here that drove and testified. Same with the trans bathroom bill. That was watered down more or less.
Okay.
But, some other horrible ones have passed. I mean, there's a whole slew of them. It just blows my mind that this is what we're sitting around thinking about doing in Arkansas instead of things that absolutely matter, like homelessness, poverty, food insecurity,
housing
healthcare, housing, so many problems. I mean, once the COVID declaration goes away, so many people that have got on Medicaid because of the pandemic, they're going to lose it. And states like Arkansas are going to make sure that you lose it.
It's just, I really just don't get it. I don't, where do you think the attack is rooted? We're talking about fear. We're talking about people not understanding. My thing is, how do you completely blind yourself to what is actually important? Like, because everyone likes to tote the facts, right? They like to tote percentages and be like, well, these are the facts and this is this. How do you ignore the facts that there are more pressing issues in Northwest Arkansas than drag shows?
I think it's because of the notion since probably 2016 or 17 that there are alternative facts. And
Alternative facts?
you know, that they like to peddle. And it's like, well, no, we're not going to believe the American Medical Society, but we're going to believe the Family Research Council instead. Or we're going to believe this pastor over here that, you know, has done his research, you know, with one quack doctor that, you know, doesn't believe in trans healthcare, but they actually have not talked to doctors that specialize in that field. It blows my mind.
So it's not about facts. It's about what they can find to support their narrative.
Correct. Pushing their narrative. And a lot of times they're hiding behind religion and using religion as a basis of discrimination towards so many groups that they don't understand or agree with.
Interesting how that
Isn't
works.
it?
I swear. So despite the recent legislation, do you think that Northwest Arkansas is more or less supportive of the LGBTQIA plus community?
I would say overall more.
Okay.
I would say overall, I think,
yeah.
you know, especially, you know, Fayetteville does a really good job, I think, supporting our community. We have a wonderful relationship with the city, the police department, the fire department to put on Pride. The Bear, the city council members are all behind us and want us, you know, there and to support us and march with us and cheer with us and do all the fun things. I'd say that there are probably a few other cities in the area that would be not as supportive.
Interesting.
You know, it is what it is. And I mean, once you kind of get outside, you know, into rural Washington County, you know, your support, and Benton County, your support kind of gets worse and worse and worse. I just think it's because of a lack of education. Like, a lot of these folks may not know a gay person or a trans person. But
I feel like they know and they just ignore
know,
it.
or they either don't accept it, or you know, they've got their blinders on and pretend it doesn't exist. But then they don't make an effort to actually, you know, learn and try to get to know them, you know, because that's the only way you're going to learn.
I feel like there's a lot of cognitive dissonance involved, that I feel like people are more interested in supporting what they already think than learning anything new. It's easier to just keep doing what you're doing than it is to learn something new and change.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot easier to just carry on and not admit that you were wrong. A lot of people can't handle admitting when they're wrong.
You mean accountability?
Yeah, that little word.
That's a bad word. That should go with the rest of them. One of the things that I found out recently with there was an issue with like Black-owned NWA, and then people were reaching out to me and this person wanted me to educate them. So do you feel like there is a labor involved in having to educate people? Because my thing is this: you can find out anything you want to find out if you want to find it out. And when you're laboring somebody Black or laboring somebody from the LGBTQIA plus community to educate you, I feel like that's not really their job. But at the same time, if we leave it up to you to leave it up to that person who is screaming for you to educate them, then they're never going to educate themselves. So how do you find that balance? Do you feel obligated to educate people?
Sometimes, yes, especially when they're just flat out wrong.
Right.
And then a lot of other times, you know, I don't trust these folks some of them to go out and get the correct information.
That's it.
So, a lot of it is pointing them in the right direction, maybe not directly educating them, but pointing to resources that they can go to and hopefully get the knowledge that they need in order to understand better.
Okay, I like that because it seems like it's less laboring than, all right, let me carve time out of my schedule. Yeah, exactly. It's like, but sometimes I want to ask, do you really want to change, or do you want evidence to prove why you should stay the same?
Right.
I don't know if it's going to be worth my time. So I feel like maybe that is where some people are. But I like your answer as far as just point them in the right direction. You don't have to take 2 hours out of your schedule just pointing them in the right direction to where they can find the information that they need and do it on their own.
And I think you can kind of also determine, like, by some of the questions that they ask you, if they're actually genuine or if they're just, being,
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
If they're being an eggplant, all right.
Right. Yep. Or just condescending just to,
Just for, so tell me about this. Tell me about, I definitely know that tone. Pride, we just talked about this too. Pride seems to get bigger and bigger every year. What can people expect from Pride this year?
So this year we're going to kick off on Friday, June 2nd, down at Nomad's West End Wake and Bake.
Okay.
On West Avenue. We're going to have our happy hour. Usually we'd have it later in June, but we like to kick off Pride with that. So that'll be that night, I think from 5:30 to 8:30.
Okay.
We're working on some other events right now to fill up the gaps in between, like the 2 or 3 weeks in between Pride. And then the main events are, oh, wait, hold on. We have another event that I just thought about. On June 4th, we are going to be doing a family picnic / pool party at Wilson Park. We've rented the pool. We'll have DJ. We'll have food, drinks. Should be a whole lot of fun. A lot of activities.
Had me at food.
Yep. Same. Me too. And then on June 23rd, we will be bringing back Transmarch. That will be on block up to the square. And then we're going to have a little festival afterwards that's geared towards the trans community with some speakers and some vendors and some music and hopefully a really good time, some food trucks as well. And then the main day is June 24th. Festival will kick off at 11, and the parade will begin at 5 p.m. Again this year. And then that night at George's is Glitterville. We're bringing in RuPaul Queen Diabetes, who is from one of our neighbors from Springfield, Missouri. So she'll be coming down and partying with the Dixon Street Divas for that night. And then we're going to bring back the pool party this year. That will be up at Mount Sequoia. We're going to be partnering with Bite NWA to do a fun little brunch experience up there. We should have music as well and a lot of other fun surprises in store for y'all this year.
This sounds really amazing. I will say Glitterville was sold out.
It was.
Last time. So
buy your tickets early, folks.
Yes, if you are considering or you think you may want to, don't even think about it. Just do it because you're going to have severe FOMO because I think y'all sold out pretty quickly.
Very quickly, especially the VIP sections. They were sold out super quick because we just don't have a lot of capacity.
Right.
For those,
and it's not going to get, not necessarily any better, but it's like, it's not going to be easier to get a ticket this year than it was last year.
Yeah. George's is the same building as it was last year, the year before that, the year before that, the year before that. So
get your tickets early. So I want to talk a little bit about rainbow washing now. For some people who aren't familiar with rainbow washing, it's when companies right around Pride Month, they all of a sudden support the LGBTQIA plus community, and it's like, do they? It's very gimmicky. It's they use rainbow colors to claim that they support the community when they really don't. My question for you, Rich, is how can people be sure that they are supporting the right organizations, that the money actually goes to the community besides Google? I mean, I know I can Google and be like, are they all really legit? But what are some ways that people can keep from getting?
Look at who's sponsoring Pride events.
Okay.
That's a pretty good indication of, they're putting their money where their mouth is.
Okay.
Like for this, Walmart is back as a presenting sponsor, and so is the Tyson Family Foundation.
Okay.
They're doing the right things. But a lot of it is researching. I mean, I love what's happening with Bud Light right now. It's
oh my gosh,
cracking me up
Kid
that they're
Rock
flipping out over Dylan Mulvaney.
I would just say Kid Rock did the most, and that yikes.
But that shows that, Anheuser-Busch has been a sponsor of Pride's for a long time. Same, I hate to break it to them, but same as Molson Coors, who owns Coors Light and Miller Lite. So and if you look at all the other brands that they owned, I mean, they're screwed.
So look at who is sponsoring, because
look at who is sponsoring.
They're putting the most money,
and they're putting their resources back into their DEI initiatives within their company and also outside of their company.
Okay.
But they're brands that are they're gonna make a rainbow shirt that's for sale on June 1st, and June 30th that logo on their Instagram and their
and you'll never see it again.
Nope, not one bit.
Interesting.
Not one bit.
That's a good point. So look at who's sponsoring. They're actually putting their money where their mouth is. All right, what do you want to tell people about Pride and or NWA equality that they may not otherwise know?
Let's see. What about Pride? Oh, I don't know if we mentioned this. Next year is the 20th anniversary of the parade.
Really?
So yeah,
Of the parade in Northwest Arkansas?
yes. So
Shut your
20
mouth.
years next year it will be having going down Dixon Street.
Wow.
So we're really hoping that the Ramble is done, the new park where the Walton Arts Center parking lot is in downtown Fayetteville.
Okay.
Really hoping that's done for the 20th anniversary. So that's something that a lot of people probably don't know, that this has been
didn't know
happening
that.
for almost 20 years. This will be the 19th annual Pride Parade this year.
Wow. And so NWA Equality celebrates so you said 2006?
Yeah, so we'll be 2026.
26 is the
so
20
the
year.
parade and NWA Equality used to be separate organizations,
gotcha.
and then everything merged around 2016, give or take, under one umbrella.
Nice. Well, where can people, if people want to get involved with NWA Equality, or maybe volunteer, or do you have any positions open? Where can they go to find more information?
All that info is either at nwaequality.org, and then anything Pride related, we're still working on the pages right now, but nwapride.org will have all the ticket links when those are up, which I'm hoping is going to be around May 1st, all the registration information for parade and vendors, and then eventually all the schedules and everything else glorious that we have to do for Pride. So
awesome. Well, Rich, thank you so much for taking time out of your super busy schedule to come on the podcast. I appreciate you coming on.
Oh, anything for you. I'll always make time for you, Ro.
I appreciate you. That was INTERFORM Podcast. I'm Ro on the radio. Make sure you follow INTERFORM on Instagram. It's interform.art, or on Facebook. It's INTERFORM Fashion. You can also go to our website. It's interform.art. Thank you so much, Rich.
Thanks, Ro.
You are listening to INTERFORM Podcast with Ro on the radio. You're going to want to hear this.